And welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. In a little while, Dirty Jobs host Mike Rowe will be here to discuss the president's jobs plan for America by American. Also, did you know that Caitlyn Jenner voted for Donald Trump? Indeed, that's true. Later tonight, we'll ask Jenner about that decision, which in Malibu is very brave. But first, we're almost at the 100-day mark of this presidency. Democrats have spent months calling Trump illegitimate, a Russian stooge, claiming the election results were, quote, hacked. All of that does not seem to have much effect on Trump, however. A new poll by ABC News and the Washington Post finds that if the election were held again today, President Trump would beat Hillary Clinton again, but this time by 3 points. That would be reversing the popular vote defeat in December. Well, the press have tried their best to ignore that revelation. Is it time for Democrats, though, to adopt a different approach if they want to win more elections? Well, Richard Goodstein has thought a lot about this. He's a Democratic strategist. He was an advisor to Hillary's ill-fated 2008 campaign, and he joins us tonight. Richard, it's great to see you.
Well, and my hat is off to you for this new time slot, and it's well-deserved.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
I don't know about that, but I'm going to do my best. So all the attention today has been on the fact that the president's poll numbers are low by historical standards, and they are. What's been missed is that they're higher than Hillary Clinton's. He's improved relative to Hillary Clinton since the election 5 months ago. What could possibly account for that?
Well, again, the fact of the matter is this poll is a disaster. His record high disapproval, record low for honesty, record low for a sense of whether he accomplished anything, and the public rightfully kind of puts the blame on Trump, 47% to Democrats, 7%. So, look, the fact of the matter is, as you know...
Okay, but hold on. I started by saying that his numbers are lower than previous presidents.
But by, like, a massive amount.
But still higher than Hillary's. And so that suggests this is a two-party system. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. You get two choices, the Democrat or the Republican.
Right.
People are still choosing the Republican over the Democrat.
Right.
And this is after 5 months of total warfare, bombing Dresden-level warfare, and it's not working. So is it time to rethink what you're doing? It's an obvious question.
Yeah, so Hillary Clinton's not going to run for president again. I don't think that's a spoiler alert. But the Democrats who are running, in Georgia and Kansas, they flipped defeats in House races last November by 20 to 30% to coming within 6 or 7 in Kansas, and maybe even winning in Georgia in this runoff coming up.
Can I say that? But neither of them have won.
Well,
I mean, so this is almost sad. So wait, hold on.
No,
I didn't want to go there, but Kansas, the Democrat lost in Kansas.
I understand. But
so are we giving participation trophies?
Well,
now,
what we're giving is trend trophies, right?
Okay.
So if you look in the rubiest of red states, and you went from being down 30 to down 7. That shows progress, and especially in an off-year election where Democrats, frankly, don't turn out in big numbers typically. But
given the president's poll numbers, you'd expect a series of victories, and you haven't seen them. So I guess it's getting back to the core question, which is the strategy of defining Trump as a puppet of the Kremlin and his voters as racist, is that bearing fruit for you guys? Is that working out for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's working out. First of all, put the racist stuff aside, okay?
Well, it's kind of hard to do that since your last candidate called them racist, and every Democratic leader since then has called them racist. So clearly it's not working, is it?
We'll find out when this Russia investigation is over whether or not he engaged in treasonous behavior or it was merely his campaign staff, because what the FBI director has said is that's what's under investigation.
Wait, so you're still going with that treasonous behavior?
Well, we know that. I mean, that's by definition.
So I didn't even want to go here because I like you, and I didn't think you really believe that. It's hard to tell whether it's a talking point or whether it's a symptom of something.
No.
But
no.
So here you have a president who has moved the United States into real conflict with Russia by bombing Syria, and the Russians themselves are saying we've never been closer to war in the past 20 years.
Right.
That's what collusion looks like?
I will say that the fact that we can talk about the risk of nuclear war, whether it's Russia or Korea, is itself a demerit, huge demerit
But you're
for Donald
arguing
Trump.
both sides of the argument. You're arguing that he's a pawn of the Kremlin and that he's bad for being too mean to the Kremlin.
I'm saying the Russians didn't quite know what they were bargaining for. At the time, what they were bargaining for is evidenced by the fact that the Podesta emails from WikiLeaks dropped an hour after the Access Hollywood tape. The Russians are smart. They're not that smart. They were colluding, I submit, with people who knew enough to say, now's the time.
So I'm having trouble following this theory, and I'm not going to keep torturing you here, but you're basically arguing that Trump is an agent of Russia. But whoa, slow down now. Now he's a double agent working against Russia. Is that how the conspiracy? I don't watch MSNBC, so I'm not sure the details, but you tell me. Is that what you're arguing?
I'm saying that at the time, when he was saying all these very smoochy things about Putin, they thought they were going to get somebody that was very much in their corner. What they've gotten is somebody who's rather unpredictable, who's scaring other world leaders to death, whether they're typically on our side or not.
So your theory is silly. So what you're saying? I mean, look, I mean, that's totally fair, but he can't be both. He can't be both a pawn of Russia and an opponent of Russia, I would say. But let me just ask, is somebody going to rethink? Look, let's be totally honest. The Democratic Party represented the middle of the country for generations, working people. It no longer does. It's hostile to them, and it's openly hostile. And that's not working. You're losing elections that you should win.
Yeah.
Is anybody in the party looking at that squarely in the face and saying, we got to fix this?
Yeah.
And who are these people who are thinking about it?
Donald Trump has not expanded his base one iota since getting 46% of the vote. Remember, the people who run against him got 54. It seems to me that this White House...
That was enough.
It barely was enough by 0.3, by 0.4, by 0.7 in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Great. Are you going to predicate a re-election strategy on the fact that, again, you're going to have a Jill Stein and a Gary Johnson?
You're missing it. No matter how weak the president may be, no matter how weak he was as a candidate, and you could argue, he made some missteps as a candidate, some real ones.
And lost by 3 million votes.
He still won the presidency. Now, you can try to pretend that it's not real because he didn't win the popular vote, but it's entirely real constitutionally.
Absolutely.
And he sits in the Oval Office and Hillary doesn't.
Absolutely.
So you can be a weak candidate and win if you're running against someone weaker. And so I'm just looking for some glimmer that Democratic talking points are not simply aimed at Tom Steyer here, that it's not just donors you're talking to, but voters. What's the pitch to voters? How are you going to raise their wages?
The evidence that voters are actually responding to whatever the Democratic message is was the Women's March the day after the inauguration, was even this march this past weekend around the country. Right, and the fact that these town hall meetings, people are showing energy.
What was the point of the Women's March? I'm not attacking it, okay? I guess all my neighbors went. But what was if you could narrow down to one policy point, the March on Washington was for the Civil Rights Bill. I get it. The Women's March, again, not attacking it, but I'm a little confused as to how it articulates the Democratic vision.
Donald Trump demeaned women. I'm putting Access Hollywood aside. Demeaned women throughout the campaign, and this was an affirmation saying, we're not going away, you're going to have to deal with us. You may not believe that, but that's, in a nutshell, what that was about.
Then if you could deal with this fact, Donald Trump won the majority of white women in the last election. What do you mean? Are they stupid? Are they voting in their own interests? Are they crazy? Are they bigots? I mean, how do you account for that behavior?
I mean, you disagree with me. The Comey letter is what tipped that scale. No question. I think there are a lot of people, they didn't like Hillary.
I thought it was the Russians.
They didn't. Comey.
Is he working for the Russians?
The fact of the matter. Well, he ultimately was in sync with them. I don't think he was working for them.
Comey was in sync with the Russians?
No, I'm just saying. The fact
this is getting too big.
No.
Okay.
The Russians did what they did, right, through WikiLeaks, which Trump trumpeted until the other day when he said he didn't think maybe they should be investigated.
Okay.
And then the Comey letter, absolutely.
But were they working in concert?
No, of course not.
No, but you're the one who alleged it.
I said
and was the Trilateral
in
Commission part of this?
In parallel.
Okay.
The fact is the Comey letter unquestionably is what sealed it.
But at some point, actual voters had to cast actual votes based on what they perceived to be their self-interest, and the majority of white women voted. It's a big group.
They
voted against Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
And so my question is why? Until you know why, you can't really kind of progress. Is it because they're just bad people? That seems to be the Democratic message. We don't want you if you voted for Trump because you're morally impaired. Is that what you're saying?
I think the fact of the matter is, the Hillary Clinton campaign and Hillary herself did not do a good enough job putting forward an affirmative message, and therefore, whether it was emails or everything else that was the incoming that they didn't deal with satisfactorily, these 53% of white women basically said, you know what, we're not happy about either. We're going to take a chance on Trump because we just don't like the way things are going in Washington.
But here's what's ominous. This is my last question. It's sincere. So I think the Democratic Party needs to win people it didn't win, obviously. And a lot of them are in the middle of the country. They're more traditional. They may be liberal in economics, but they're not super liberal on the social issues. Tom Perez, the leader of your party, just announced today that people who oppose Roe v. Wade, pro-lifers, are not welcome in the Democratic Party. Only, apparently, secular lifestyle liberals are now welcome. Why would he say something like that?
I can't explain it. Because the fact of the matter is, you've got leading Democrats like Bob Casey who just simply don't subscribe to that. And I don't think anybody's looking to do anything other than to glorify Bob Casey for being pro-life, but being a smart, sort of firm, committed Democrat, lifelong Democrat.
So maybe if your whole party is dependent upon money from, like, the abortion lobby, you have to kind of sing their tune. Isn't that maybe part of the problem?
Even Nancy Pelosi today in an interview said that the Democratic Party welcomes people who happen to be pro-life. I mean, it's not where she comes out, but she's saying we want them. Remember when Rahm
No, but not people. That's not what she said. She did not say people who disagree with the Roe v. Wade decision, which 40 years later is still controversial for good reason. They're not people of good faith, too. You can't say, I think Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided, and be a Democrat. That's what the leadership of your party is saying.
Well, again, the fact of the matter is they're not showing Bob Casey and others like him the door. They welcome people like that. The fact of the matter is the challenge will be they do. I mean,
by attacking him. It's very clever.
Yeah, well, be that as it may, I think they're going to show his support when he runs for re-election in 2018. I think that will be the answer to your concern.
Richard, you're a brave man. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.